Can you reverse or treat Epstein Barr virus? It's a loaded question, and I can't wait to finally say it once and for all, so everyone, including clinicians, and if you're suffering from chronic EBV, can get on the same page. I've been saying this again and again, and it's true, it's factual, it's well researched, it's proven in clinical practice. I am absolutely thrilled and honored and honestly tickled that I got to track down Dr. Flavin, who wrote this study and published it. I connected with her. We hope to, she's in Germany, we hope to somehow get her back to the States to actually lecture about this experience with Epstein-Barr, maybe train clinicians and share a little bit more about the amazing, brilliant medical work she's doing. And she's been doing it for many decades. It's a great honor. I literally stumbled upon this study as I was finishing the book on EBV, and I almost fell off the chair because here is a medical doctor. I can't claim reversing or treating. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of clinical nutrition. I have very solid results in my clinical practice, pretty predictable if it's just Epstein-Barr and no other complications. And here's a medical doctor who jumped in to help a group of 50 children and young adults in very dangerous and acute situation, and was able to reverse the damage from EBV within 24-48 hours. I am extremely grateful. I'll be forever grateful to Dr. Flavin that she actually took the time to figure it out, basically, to save those kids. But also after that, that she took the time and actually wrote out the study, published it, so we have it. Everybody can see it. And you know, the most profound effect that the study had on me was that this is a study from 2006. And I was writing my book, it was 2018, 17, 18. And I didn't know about this. I stumbled upon it at their last moment, literally, when I was almost finished with the book. How is it that in all the studies, in all the research, in all the materials, in all the knowledge that we feel we have or don't have on Epstein-Barr, this study is not at the front, at the forefront. It is hidden. It's the best kept secret. So, Dr. Flavin, we are forever grateful because you're just changing the way the medicine will be treated, or the medicine will be treating the virus. So I think this video will be about 30 minutes. So if you don't have time right now, I would like you to relax, take your time when you listen to it. I want to make a difference with this. It's a little bit technical, but I want to bring it home so everybody has a little bit more new insights about this virus, especially if you're suffering from it. So let's talk about some big concepts that she introduced in the study. There's going to be a link to the study, so please print it, have it, own it, share it with your doctor, share it with your family, so everybody understands that the virus is predictable. It's doing enormous damage, as we can see here, but there's a very long, easily accessible list of nutrients that are easily able to combat the damage and easily able to stall the virus. That's exactly what I was doing. And my biggest shock was to see that Dr. Flavin and I were working parallelly, although she was way ahead in time. And her protocol, which I will show you here in the study, is almost identical with mine, literally. And so it does work. That's the bottom line, and I want to share that with you. And the statement is strong, but the statement is true. So we talked about the enlarged spleen, how dangerous it is. I think that it can rupture a spleen and you can die. This particular group had a lot of malaise, fever, enlarged spleen, obviously. Oftentimes when you have acute infection, and she explained this here, you can have enlarged lymph nodes. And anybody who has had the EBV and enlarged lymph nodes knows exactly where they are on the sides of your neck. They're very tender. Your lymphocytes are your white blood cells. They live in your lymph, and their job is to move around and provide protection from invaders, pathogens, viruses. And unfortunately, a virus such as EBV is very smart and immobilizes it. And Dr. Flavin really brilliantly went through pathology and found different studies to show what happens. So think about the big picture. You probably heard about free radical damage. These are kind of very annoying particles that literally can damage your cells, cause oxidative stress, cause premature aging, cause inflammation, cause disease, and so on and so forth. So there are different reactive oxygen species, ROS. There's various. One of them, XO, xanthine oxidase. For example, it's been shown in the blood of people with hepatitis B or EBV in 200 times higher than they should be normal levels. And so this is a particularly bad free radical because it binds to the surface of the cell that is infected. The more acidity you have on the surface of the cell, the more receptors are exposed to this. So receptors are little antennas sticking out of your cell. So imagine your cell, your lymphocyte, for example, being like a tennis ball, and you stick little needles all over it, and they're sticking out, and each needle has a different shape, and each shape corresponds to a different nutrient. So let's say maybe insulin, no, well, maybe let's see, vitamin D has a different shape, and so the receptor there, the needle on this tennis ball will have a different shape, and those shapes will match together, so the vitamin D will always find the right needle, the right little antenna receptor, and dock there, and then that docking will allow the cell to recognize that, okay, this is vitamin D, I can allow it in, and then there's a trickling effect of vitamin D getting inside the cell. The point is that inside the cell is where nutrients need to go in order to sustain life, produce energy, and feed the cell and feed you. So it's interesting about acidity, the pH on the surface of the cell. I don't know how it translates into pH of the blood or pH of water or pH of food, but acidic pH in food, it doesn't sustain health. The bloodstream has a very specific and tight regulation of pH, and it will literally leach nutrients from your body, calcium from your bones, to buffer it. Magnesium, calcium are buffers. They need to be in the water, for example, that you drink in order to have the right pH. If the pH is too acidic, then too low, then you'll be losing your own material in order to buffer a liquid. So, which brings me to the pH of water that we drink. I'm sure that the body regulates that internally, but certain water filtrations create pH changes, and I have a huge part of the book on EBV is about water and pH infiltration, and the pH that actually EBV prefers, and it's slightly acidic. It's 5.5 if I remember. That's where the Epstein Barr will be more likely to lyse out of the infected cell. So it's interesting that Dr. Flavin also found that the acidity on the outside of the infected cell, if it's bigger, it enhances the free radical from Epstein Barr virus. She talks about, let me see, there's a lot of free radical damage, and she walks you through different pathways here. And so let's keep it simple. Now, if you have that free radical damage that is all right on the outside of the cell, the membrane of the cell, that also creates more toxicity in the cell. You have more cytokines like prostaglandins, E2, tumor necrotic factors, bradykinins, complements. All these create their own avalanches of inflammation. These are all inflammatory markers. So, and that's just produced from that initial free radical damage from EBV. So you can imagine how detrimental it is to the cell. The cell becomes really inflamed, and so you become inflamed. One of the free radicals causes ENOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. That actually is really detrimental specifically to your lymphocytes. So remember we talked about the enlarged lymph nodes and the fact that lymphocytes live there. They're your white blood cells that fight infections, fight viruses. Well, this particular free radical, and this is what Dr. Flavin found out, this actually will slow down the activity of your lymphocytes. It kind of immobilizes them so they can't function properly. Not good. There's more chemicals released, and Dr. Flavin mentions them, cytokine-like compounds similar to cytokine interleukin-10. So these chemicals are starting to be made, and as a result, not only are lymphocyte impairs in the way they can be mobile, but their antiviral, anti-cancer qualities also start to be blocked. So in this way, the virus prevents the lymphocytes from fighting the virus. What I do want to bring to attention is that Epstein Barr virus is also oncogenic, which means it is responsible for causing certain types of cancer. And what you may not know is that about 200,000 cases of EBV-caused cancer globally are recorded. And in 2010 alone, about 143,000 people globally actually died because of EBV-induced cancer. So interestingly, your lymphocytes are responsible for that anti-cancer property as well. And as you can see, Epstein-Barr can turn it down or turn it off. And so you can't defend yourself. One of the biggest things that Dr. Flavin also discussed here, and I'm a huge fan of that as well, I have a huge chapter on NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is an inflammatory marker. We need a little bit of this, but poor diet increases it. It's very inflammatory, and it literally drives the virus. It thrives on it, it hijacks it, and uses it for its replication. So I have a huge list in the book of different foods, fruits, botanicals, or culinary herbs or culinary spices that block NF-kappa B. Also, diet high in antioxidants actually reduces NF-kappa B. There are a lot of potential fighters of NF-kappa B that you can readily apply in your kitchen. So this is not hard. What can bring it up is just even one fast food meal. There was a study, I think it increased breakfast. It was, I think, a breakfast meal in a fast food restaurant that included hash browns and an egg, something like that. That increased NF-kappa B for 1.5 hours by 150%, something like that, or maybe 2 hours, 150%. But so clearly, dietary changes, having more of the plant matter and whole foods, anti-inflammatory diet, You probably heard of that. Fruits, vegetables, that will help block NF-kappa B. Another thing that she focused on is interferon gamma, and that's something that I learned from Dr. Flavin. I would have missed it in the book. I'm very grateful for that, because interferon gamma is actually very effective in fighting viruses, especially EBV. So she listed a couple of anti-NF-kappa B nutrient-based supplements, and like Dr. Flavin, I am a huge proponent of nutrients used in the therapeutic protocol, supplements that are heavy on nutrients. And we see in research again and again that nutrients move the needle the best. So I don't use herbs as much, except one that we will discuss today, because I think in terms of research, effectiveness, clinical application and clinical results, nutrients are really stellar. They deliver. And so here is vitamin E, vitamin C that she was using. And then, of course, my all-time favorite as well, licorice. You have to use the whole licorice, not the glycerated licorice, for that. And licorice has different applications. So let me tell you a little bit about licorice. It has different constituents and different synergistic effect on the virus. So we're looking at flavonoids, for example. We're looking at decreasing the xanthine oxidase, one of those free radicals that we discussed, and reversing it to a different form so it's not so active. She talks about other constituents like milk thistle, garlic, or different berries that also do similar things with similar flavonoids. She talks about glycerinic acid in licorice. This is the most famous constituent, active constituent, that increases that very beneficial gamma interferon, or interferon gamma. Let me see here. She found research that shows that it increased the antiviral effect in Epstein Barr threefolds, I think. So the thing with licorice is that if you take it too late in the day, you may be more agitated and maybe anxious, and maybe you can have heart palpitations. So you want to take it earlier in the day. You want to work with a clinician to guide you through this. It's not advised if you have high blood pressure already. That's a different story. But if you have low blood pressure and very weak adrenals due to sustained stress, it will actually support your adrenals. It will perk you up, give you a little bit more energy. If you have inflamed stomach, if you have gastritis, it may actually also support your gut. And so it has many different good applications. It's been used as one of the most favorite herbs in China for hundreds of years. Dr. Flavin also focused on N-acetylcysteine, NAC. It's a very famous amino acid that supports the liver, that builds glutathione. It has many applications. I have a whole chapter on this in the book. I also have a whole chapter on licorice. Like I said, we've been working on this parallelly without knowing of each other. Of course, her study is from 2006, so it's so far ahead of our time. Now we talk about EBV a lot, but nobody was talking about EBV when she was doing this. So anyway, NAC is a wonderful tonic for the liver, but it also helps reverse the damage to lymphocytes that are caused by some of the free radicals. And so also NAC can bind to the free radical, and that was the free radical and endothelial nitric oxide. That was the one that immobilized the lymphocyte. So NAC can bind to it and mobilize it again. So it helped tremendously reverse the enlarged spleen, and she said in a matter of hours. So look at the therapy here. You have a complete list of 6 stellar antiviral nutrients, like 5 nutrients and 1 herb. And it's pretty much what I do in my protocol, except I may have different dosages. And she walks you through, again, summary of why they're so effective. She picked the right ones, the best ones, and she saved those 50 people, that's for sure. There is a picture of enlarged spleens and spleens afterwards, normalized. The zinc and selenium are on my list of bestsellers, stellars as well. We talked about interferon, gamma interferon. Apparently zinc increases that activity 10 times. And selenium, just like NAC, is very important in building glutathione, but it's also great as a support for your thyroid. There have been studies on just 200 micrograms stabilizing Hashimoto's, for example. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disorder where the thyroid is being attacked by immune system, and oftentimes there is a pathogen in that thyroid. Many times it's Epstein Barr. It can directly cause Hashimoto's. So selenium can protect the thyroid and feed it. It's depleted in soil, so it's hard to get it from food, and it depends on the soil quality. And then, of course, it supports the liver along with NAC by helping to build glutathione, which is extremely important, but that's a different story. So that's her protocol. As you can see, her group of 50 was treated, and she was able to rapidly reverse the Epstein Barr just by understanding the basic pathology and molecular biology of viral diseases. We are now able to inhibit the toxicity of the disease while simultaneously increasing the immune defense to stop the viral replication. So, the interesting thing is that if you look at pathology and physiology, the same may apply to other viruses. Interestingly, I've had very good results with the same type of therapy in, let me see, shingles, which is the varicella zoster virus as well. So I agree with her. Viruses don't like the same thing. And you can see why. So here she says NAC was able to stop the inhibition of motility of your poor lymphocytes, so they were able to work better. And she was able to reverse the enlarged spleen even within hours. We were able to block specific biochemical targets to enhance the motility of the lymphocytes out of the spleen, and as well as drastically decreasing the toxicity and the viral replication itself. The individual nutrients are so important and so well picked by her. That's why she had the dramatic improvement and successful reversal of all symptoms in this disease for a rapid return, 24-48 hours to optimal health. So is that possible? Yes. Is it treatable? Yes. Is it reversible? Yes. The enlarged spleen is an acute and very dangerous form of Epstein Barr infection. If we have chronic aspect of it, of course, it's going to take longer. It's going to take a little bit more of the higher doses of some of these supplements, an expanded protocol, more attention to sleep, stress, lifestyle, diet. But it is absolutely possible. I've seen it. I want to thank Dr. Flavin again from the bottom of my heart. This is a huge service to the whole planet, and everybody should hear about the study. I hope it's helpful. I hope you will print it and you will share it with your family and your providers. If you have any questions, feel free to post a question below.